Obviously my style is a little bit more cartoony, so we will go into a little bit more of some realistic stuff. But this is what we're mainly going to be drawing today. All right, so for today's lesson, you will need a pencil, some paper, and an eraser. And I will just wait for another minute and then we will get started. Okay, so to start off today, um, we're drawing this face and we're going to start off with a circle like most of the things we draw. So I'm going to put this off to the side here and we are going to get started. So we're starting off with a fairly big circle on your page. And this is going to be the start of our foundation lines for our face. So our next step here is going to be drawing a line down the middle of our circle and then continuing it down a little bit past where our circle ends. So you want to try and get this in the middle as much as possible, as well as being as straight of a line as you possibly can. Um, yeah. So the next couple of lines we're going to add to the side of our face here, and we're going to go just slightly down past the end of our circle here. So if I were to draw a line like this would go just a little bit past it. Not quite that far past it, but um, just a little bit there. And we're doing this on either side, and you can see I'm kind of cutting off just the tiniest little bit of our circle with these lines. And yeah, that's just to give the face a little bit more of a rectangular shape to it. Yeah. The next step is going to be finishing off this chin here. And to do that, we're just going to add in rounded lines coming from that line down to the middle of the face. So this is our main shape for our head. And you can kind of you can change it up very easy with just a couple of things. So if you wanted it to be more of like a square jaw, you can flatten out this area here. So it's got more of like a flat chin. Yeah, so with almost every like shape on the face, just changing it slightly can give you a completely different face. So I'll show you just some examples of like chins you could do. So you can have like a very square one or a very pointy one like this. Um, you can do more of a rounded one like that. These are very rough, so they're not exactly perfect. Like I said, you can have more of a square chin here, like so. So it's kind of um, every like part of the face that we're leaving as fine lines. So you can see her jawline here. You can change every part of it and have a completely different face as your outcome, which is really interesting to do, especially when you're drawing characters in a more cartoony style. You want to really push the different shapes of your character. So from here, we're going to add in some more construction lines, starting off with our eyebrow line here, and it's going to be roughly in the middle of our circle. So this is the line that we are using to highlight the eyebrows of like where to put the eyebrows on the face. And it's going to be roughly in the middle of the circle. Um, yeah. The next line we are going to add in is for the eyes here. So you want to go a little bit further down from the eyebrows. Um, there's not really like a big benchmark on where to put them. Um, so I like to put them just a little bit further down from there. Um, some people often put them in the middle, between this eyebrow line and this line here. Um, yeah, but I like to put them a little bit higher up on the face. So this line that we connected to the bottom of the circle is going to be for our nose. Um, and that will be like where we put kind of the middle of the nose. And then the final line that we're going to be adding in is the mouth. And this is kind of in between the chin and the nose line here. So on a face like this, I also like to add in a neck. And this is kind of like a really tapered rectangle. So I'm going from the chin, just a little bit in from the chin, almost at this like mouth line here, and slowly tapering just a little bit inwards. That's a little bit thick, so I'm going to make it a little bit smaller. And then I'm going to add in the shoulders here, which I go from like a little bit down from, so uh, this is just a visual line here, so you don't need to draw it in, but I'm going a little bit down from where the chin ends and just kind of going outward like that, maybe a little bit higher than that, but yeah. And then I often add in this line, and this is kind of like almost a collarbone line, but not quite. It's just more to uh, just kind of finish off the shape that we've made instead of leaving it open. And I'm going to go through and erase just a couple of these lines that I don't need. So this is our base shape for our head without any of our features on it. So this is where I kind of start with every single one of my face drawings. It's like the construction lines of things, which is like where we start with most of our pencil sketching. So this is the like the base for everything that we're going to be doing on top of it. Yeah. So from here, we're going to start drawing in some of our features. And before I put them, uh, well, I'm going to go through them very like slowly. And if you want me to, I can draw them a little bit bigger on the page beside it. Um, yeah, and we can go through and add in our features here. So to start off, we are going to be starting from like top to bottom, kind of. So I usually start with the eyes, and this is just kind of like personal preference, really. Um, yeah, but we're going to go in to our eyes here, and we're going to start by adding in circles as our base shapes. So um, you want to put your circles in almost the middle of your lines here, like in between this section and this section here. That's a little bit big, so I'm going to go a little bit smaller. When you're working in a cartoony style, though, you really want to exaggerate features. So this is a little bit bigger than what you would do on a more realistic person. Um, yeah, but this is our start of our eyes. I'm just going to erase some of the lines I don't want here. And when you're drawing in a face, lots of people like to do one part completely to the end of it and then move on to the next. But when you're drawing things like eyes or eyebrows, you want to draw them at the same time. So they're even. And the way that I like to do that is add in more construction lines as I go. So when I'm drawing in an eye, I'll take the bottom of the circles and the bottom and the top of the circle and draw it over to the other side so I know what size of a circle I'm going to need. And yeah. And one of the important things when you're doing things mirrored, you want to take like almost a step back and look at how it looks. And if it looks weird, it's usually because it's off in some way. So you can see this eye looks really, really close here on this side. So I'm just going to move it a little bit further back from the middle here. But they look about the same size, which is nice. Um, when drawing a face, you're never going to get it perfectly symmetrical, and most people's faces aren't perfectly symmetrical. So yeah. So from here, we're going to draw in our eye shape. And there's lots of different types of eye shapes, and they um, they really change the look of your character. So I'm going to kind of show you a couple in the bottom here in terms of eye shapes. Um, I'm gonna go with like maybe three. So the very standard eye shape is very, very rounded. And I'm going with like a very large arc on the top and then a little bit of a smaller arc on the bottom. And this is like a very like more European eye shape. Um, it's a very like wide eye type character that you use this for. Um, yeah. So with this eye shape, you can make it a little bit thinner as well. So if you follow that same curve a little bit lower and a little bit higher, you can get almost the same like European look for your eyes, but they're a little bit thinner. And you can see I'm not really using the circles that I've drawn in for the exact shape. And this is because your eyeball is a circle, but your eyelids and stuff are not, um, they're not really circular in shape. They're more based off of the shape of your eyeball. So um, it's really hard to kind of explain, but you're using um, the circle as kind of a reference for how big you want your eyes to be. And then this line actually turns into like an eyelid, right? So it shows, if I erased some of this circle here, it gives you your eyelid shape, right? Um, so another eye shape that you can do is a very like a droopy kind of an eye shape. So a very like flat arc on the top. Oh, broke my pencil. And then like a very um like almost like the eye is flipped from this one, where the bottom is a very big arc and then the top is a very small arc. And then once again, you'd add in your eyelids here. And that's a different type of eye shape you could do. And the other one is a very thin eye shape where you have your arcs matching almost in shape. Like so. So you're keeping those arcs even like that. And you can do this with a bit of a wider arc as well. But those are kind of like the three major ways to draw eyes, where you've got like a big arc on the top, a larger arc on the bottom, and then more of an equal arc like that. And you'd add in the eyelid after like that. So on this character, I'm going to be doing more of this type of an eye look, just because it's a little bit not simpler, but like, I don't know, it's just always what I end up drawing when I'm drawing for fun. So I'm following an arc shape throughout that circle that we have put in, like so, and then adding in that bottom eyelid as well. And like I said, you want to mirror things. So rather than continuing any more details with this eye, I'm going to do this one, and I'm going to try and replicate that same shape. And like I did with the circle, I often draw lines to help myself like get it closer to exact. So if you see on these little eyes or larger eyes that I've drawn, and you can kind of see it on here, I'm adding in these tear ducts, and they go outside of the original circle that we've drawn. So you can see the way I do that is just continuing the top arch or arc, and then adding almost a triangle to this area, and then adding it back into the bottom uh, eyelid. And that becomes a tear duct. So you can see it in this drawing as well. You can see the tear ducts. Yeah. So you can see my eyes here aren't exactly even. This eye is a lot more closed than the other one. So when I have a problem like that, I kind of pick my favorite out of the two, and then I will try and change the other one to look a little bit more like the eye that I like. So from here, I add in the eyelid line here, and I erase this part of the circle and at the bottom as well. So when you're doing a more cartoony style, the more like wrinkle and crease lines you add to the face, the older that a person can look. So on this one, if I were to add in more of this bottom line, you can see it ages her quite a bit. Or if I were to add in like even more of a line. So if you're trying to draw a very young character, you want to keep those lines very like light and loose. Even that's a little bit dark. You can also add in deeper lines around the eyes to show like someone being tired or something like that. Yeah. So the person that we are trying to draw today is a little bit more middle-aged, so I'm not going to go too heavy on the lines. Sorry about my voice. Um, yeah, like I said, just trying to keep things a little bit lighter around the face like this. So when drawing a face like this, I will be fixing things up, like up until I'm done with the drawing. Um, and that's kind of just like if it doesn't look right, then I'll erase it. Um, yeah, and that's the way that I approach most of my drawings is I'm not done until I don't want to draw anymore, really. Um, so whatever I'm drawing is constantly changing. So I'm fixing the eye shapes here just a little bit. And yeah. So this is close enough to being even. Um, and we're going to move on to the iris of the eye here. Um, so there are many ways that you can add an iris to an eye. I'll show you a couple of different ones on our example eyes here. I'll show you the way that I normally do it to begin with, and that's starting with a circle, and you want your circle to overlap with your um your eyelid line. What's it called? I can't remember. Um, your lash line, I think. I don't know. But you want it to kind of cross over that line. So yeah. When you're drawing characters in this style, if you have an eye, um, like if you have an eye with a pupil not touching any of the eyelids, it looks a little bit like your character is going slightly crazy. Um, so if you go from like an eye that looks like this to an eye that has it connecting to one of your eyelids, it looks a lot softer. And you can have it connecting to both of the eyelids as well. So if it is a little bit of a thinner eye, like a thinner eye shape like this one, you can have your iris connect to both of the lids. So when I'm drawing an iris, I break it up into um, like like four sections. I start off with the pupil, which is in the middle of your circle. So I'm going to add that in, and I usually I usually eyeball it. Pardon the pun. But just trying to get it somewhat in the middle of your iris circle. And then from here, I divide this area that is left into three spots. So I'm going to erase this top part of um, the iris, and this area is what I have left, and I'm going to separate that into shadow, which I use a rounded line. This line follows this top um, eyelid line here. So you're adding in your shadow, and then I add in another line, and this is your like heavy, not heavy shading, but like medium shading, and then you've got your lightest part of your eye here at the bottom. Also, during this time, I will add in a highlight to my eye. So this is just like a small, like a white circle or an oval, and it's just to show that the eye is like really reflective of light, or not reflective. It's a very smooth surface that shows like reflections of things, right? So I add in the highlight. Sometimes I'll put it like here, or you can put it on like the other side of the eye. It just is really preference. And then when I'm coloring things in, I'll color in the pupil as dark as I can get it with my pencil. And then I'll do the shadow in a very similar, kind of almost as dark as I can get it type shading. So it is very dark at the top. Not quite as dark as the pupil, but very similar in shade. And then from here, I'll continue the shading, but I'll get lighter as I go downward from here. And I'll shade in this middle section. And then I'll barely shade in this last section here. You can even leave quite a portion of it white. You can see on this one that I left quite a bit of it white. And then there's just a couple of finishing touches from here that I'll add in. I'll darken the circle around the iris here. And sometimes I'll add in some texture. And by texture, it's just adding in some lines going from the outside to the pupil. So this is the cartoony style that I normally use. Um, yeah, it's what I use for all of my like people drawings. Um, yeah, if you would like, I can show you how to go a little bit more of a detailed eye. Um, yeah, we can also come back to it in a little bit, but I'm going to add them into these eyes now, and you want to try and get them looking in the same direction on your drawing. So that's a little bit high up. So if I had one of my eyes on this side, then the other one is going to be on this side of the eye, so they're looking in the same direction. And you want to get them about the same size as well, so you can see this one's a little bit smaller than this one. So I'm just adding um, a little bit to the side of it to make it bigger, like so. And then from there, I'm going to follow the same procedure we did for this one. So I'm starting off with the pupil here. And with eyes, you want to put them at the same time. So you're making sure they look correct where you put them. And then adding in those 3 lines. And you can see I'm following the shape of my eyelid. And this will change on both of the eyes. So I'm adding in my highlight as well, and you want these to go in almost the same spot on the eye. So you can see this one is closer to the top in the middle here, and then adding that in kind of the same spot. So coloring it in, going nice and dark on the pupil, and then in the shading on the top as well. And then slowly going out from there. And then darkening up the circle around the iris and adding in just a little bit of texture. You can't see it super well on the person that I've drawn as it's a little bit small, but that's why we went over it just a bit bigger. So I'm going to do the same to the other eye, and then we will add our finishing touches on the eye and move on from there. So while I have my eraser out, I'm going to erase the line that I used for the tops of my circle as well as the tops of my eyes, just to keep our paper a little bit cleaner so it's easier to see what we are doing. So now we're going to add in our eyelashes. And the way that I do this is with very rounded lines. So if you look at eyelashes up close, they are very curved, and you want to kind of keep that going when you're drawing. So when you're drawing eyelashes, you want them to be focused more towards this side of your eye, and that's going to be where your longest ones are. And I start by just adding in a couple of curved lines, and because we're working on a 3D curve here, the lines on this side are going to be curving in the other direction, and these ones are going to be almost straight in the middle here. And the other thing about eyelashes is they like to almost go into like triangles. So when you're adding a little bit more eyelashes, you want to keep them almost like clumped together. And this is a little bit more of a realistic eyelash. So if you look at like more cartoony eyes, um, I'll just use this one. They do just like really, really big triangles and color them in. And that's another way you can do some eyelashes. It's really up to what you want your character to look like. And for bottom eyelashes, I do the same thing, except I don't really add any towards this side. So you want them mainly towards the end here, and you can see I'm making them look like little triangles. It's a little bit hard to see on here. So I'll exaggerate it a little bit, but I'm doing them very small on the bottom. So if you were going to do like very big bottom eyelashes, I'm still curving them. So like those are very big ones, but I'm still like curving them out from the eyes, and I'm still making little triangles like that. Yeah, so I'm going to add them onto my face here. And I'm going to start by adding in a couple of them and then going back in and adding more. And these lines can sometimes overlap this eyelid line, and that is perfectly fine. just means the person was blessed with really nice eyelashes. So, if you can see, whenever I do these eyelashes, I do a couple and then I pause and I look at the other eye in relation to it, and that's just um it's a technique that I learned from doing still lifes in person, where you want to look at the thing that you're drawing and then the thing you are trying to draw. So, um, it's just like seeing how close you're getting to replicating or matching something. Um, yeah, and it's a really useful um, skill to have, where you're just kind of checking your art if you're basing it off something else. So if I'm basing these eyelashes off of this eye's eyelashes, I go back and I check between them to make sure that they're looking similar. And I will do this if I'm like drawing a photo, um, or if I'm drawing like something in real life, I look at the thing that I am currently drawing and then what it's supposed to look like. And it just helps you make it look more realistic. So, yeah. So I'll just wait for a minute and then we will move on to some eyebrows. All right, so from here, when we're adding in eyebrows, we're going to start with some more construction lines, just to show placement of them. So your eyebrows are going to be above your eye here. So I draw um, lines coming up from both ends of my eye, like so. And this just shows kind of how big our eyebrows are going to be. So your eyebrows will extend just a little bit further than each side of your eyes. And yeah, so eyebrows are kind of built up of two shapes. You've got a rectangle and a triangle on the side of it. So those are um, the two basic shapes for your eyebrow. But you can kind of make them look different That's very sideways. You can kind of make them look different based off of how you want them to look. So this one is a very thin on one end rectangle and adding in a very long triangle. It really is like personal preference how you want your eyebrows to look. If you want them to be very square and then thinner like that, you can taper them downward as well. This will make your character look a little bit more sad if you have a downward taper to your eyebrows. But yeah, you can also like round them quite a bit at the start here and then continue into a rectangle shape. So you can kind of really do any shape for eyebrows. And your eyebrows, you want to put um, your starting corner of your rectangle to be on that line and go down from it and up from it at the same time, kind of. Um, like so. And you can see my eyebrow goes just a little bit further than this line on each side. And once I have one eyebrow in place, I do like to check where my rectangle ends in like proportion to this eye so I can match it on this side. So like that. You can also see I went a little bit too far out. So you can see because I kind of planned out where to put them, they're very close in shape. I would say this one is a little bit too high compared to that one. If I draw a line between them, so that's a little bit closer in height. So I'm going to erase the lines that I used coming up from the eye now. And the little line between the triangle and the rectangle on the inside of the eyebrows. And if you made a connecting line between them, I'd erase them now, that now as well. And the way I color in eyebrows is just by adding in lines. You can't see it super clearly. I'll do it a little bit bigger. So I'm just adding lines like so. I did them a little bit smaller, like closer together than that. Um, yeah, and this is just to shade in the eyebrows. So now after shading them in, you can see the shape a little bit more clearly, and you can see the differences between your eyebrows a little bit better. And my eyebrows go just a little bit too far into the middle here. So there are our eyebrows. And now we're going to add in the nose. So the nose is fairly simple in terms of construction shapes. And then, um, yeah, so to start off, when I'm drawing in my nose, I will draw from our original brow line here. I will draw a triangle going down towards the middle of our nose line. So this, it looks a little bit goofy, but this is the start of our nose here. And then from here, I add in a triangle on the bottom as well. So from here, I will add in a circle in the middle here. And then, yeah, so this is our main construction lines that we've added on here. Um, so from here, I erase this bottom triangle just a bit. So I'm leaving the main point in the middle and the circle alone. But I'm just erasing these two sections as I'm going to add in some more rounded lines. So they round upwards from this nose area and just replace those lines there. And these lines kind of change with what nose you want to draw. So if they're higher, your nose will look more upturned. If they're lower, then they'll look more of a downturned nose. And from here, I will add rounded corners on the side of our triangle that go past these lines here. And there is like the base of our nose. So from here, I erase this circle. If you want to keep a little bit of the circle, it'll make your nose look more like a button nose. Um, if you take away the nose, it'll look a little bit more of a flatter nose. If you add just a little bit on the sides, it'll make it look a little bit more pointy of a nose. So I'm just going to add just a little bit to the top of the nose here. So from here, I'm going to draw in the bridge of the nose, and it's kind of made up of two parts. The brow part, where your nose connects to your brow, and then the side of it. So you can see it pretty clearly on this drawing here. This section is the brow of her nose, where it connects to her eyebrows, and then the bridge of her nose. So when drawing in the brow, I connect the eyebrows to that triangle. And usually I'll just add in one line to show the bridge of the nose, and I connect it down towards that rounded part of the nose. And I will erase all of the lines that we've got here. So on this side, you can add a little bit more of a nose to it. And this line, the bridge of her nose, it changes with the type of nose that someone has. So if it's more outward rounded, it'll be a bigger nose. Like that. If you have it more, um, if you have it more inward curved, it'll be a little bit of a thinner nose. You can also erase most of this line altogether. That is an option as well. And that just makes the nose look a little bit more flat to the skull. So yeah. So from here, we're going to add on the mouth, and I'm going to go over it just a little bit bigger in this bottom section here. Um, so the way that I do a mouth is I do a line to start off with, and this is like obviously it's the like opening of a mouth, so this is your middle point. Um, and then from here I add in an oval. Oh, I'll show you where to put it on the face first so you can follow along with the bigger part here, sorry. So you want your mouth to go like just a bit towards the middle from, so you can see like where my pencil is about the middle of the eye. You want it to go a little bit inward from the middle of an eye. Like that. So the line that you would place would be about there on your person. Um, yeah. So the second step is adding in an oval on the bottom part here. So the rounder you make this oval, the bigger lips your character will have. So if you make it really, really thin, they'll look like they have thinner lips. If you make them really, really round, then they'll have um, like very round lips, right? Um, and on the top here, I add in two ovals. So you can see my ovals kind of go up from this middle part, kind of leaving a triangle here, you can see. So they the ovals curve up from, well, they slant up from this line here. And these are the base construction lines of things. So from here, I start by adding in a rounded part where those two ovals connect. And then I draw a line down to this middle line here, following that shape of those ovals. I then connect this bottom line of the oval up to the lips, and you want to be at about the same spot as the top one, like where the top one connected here. And I'm just going to erase a little bit to show you a little bit clearer this middle line that we're going to draw in as our final bit. So you want to start with a little bit of a darker section and go around like this. So for this part, I go following this oval shape, and then I go up just a little bit and follow that oval shape again on the other side. And then I like to erase some of these connecting lines just to make it look a little bit more natural. If you were to put like heavy makeup on a person when you're drawing them, I would leave those lines in place. But if it's just going for more of a natural look, you want to focus more on your shading for the shape of your lip rather than um, the outline of it, just so it looks a little bit more soft. So again, I'll do it on my drawing here. So I'm adding in an oval on the bottom, and then two ovals on the top. Adding in that top rounded part, and then following the shape of the ovals down towards that middle line, and tracing out the end of that. So you can see my lips are a little bit smaller than the line I added in. So to fix that, I'm just lengthening these lines out just a bit. And then going in and following a curve like so. I'm also going to erase the lines from the eyes. So the final addition to our sketch here is just going to be adding in some ears. So I'll show you how I draw ears, but most of the time I cover them with hair when I'm drawing people. Yeah. So your ears, you want to go from the top of your eye to the bottom of your nose. So if you look at any photo of any person, their ears are going to go from about here to here. And I add in, um, it's like an oval-ish shape. So you want to keep it more flat as you won't be able to see a whole lot of your ear from the front like this. If we were drawing from the side, it would be a little bit more of a circular shape. So you want to keep it a little bit thinner, uh, even thinner than this maybe. And again, if you're drawing in two of something, you want to match them as you go. Like so. So when drawing ears from the side like this, you can't see a whole lot of the curves and stuff. So I add in um, a little like rounded triangle there that connects. You leave like the earlobe mostly blank here, and then you connect this line up around the curve of the ear. So if I erase just a little bit of my darker pencil here, you can see I'm just going around like that. And the final step is just adding in another line on the inside like that. So we'll go over it again when I do the right ear. So starting with a rounded triangle in the middle, and then going downward towards the earlobe, leaving lots of that blank, and then going around the shape like so, and then adding in a final line. So from here, I erase all of the pencil lines that I've added for construction. So going through and erasing all of these lines. And we will be adding hair. Don't worry. So I erase everything I don't need. And there is our face. Um, so from here, I like to do a little bit of shading. I shade in my lips, like I said, and this is where I follow more of the lip shape that I need shaded in. I'll shade in this section on the ears here. And I will shade just under the eyebrows. I will also shade just a little bit under the nose, but it's not much. I then go and I refine the shape of my chin here, just making sure the line is clean, and then adding a little bit of shading underneath that as well. So now we will be adding in some hair, and this will kind of be our like finishing touch to our person. So we're going to start off with a hairline, and for a female character like this, you want it to be more of a rounded hairline. So I'm going and following my circle at the top here just a little bit and connecting it just by the ears. And that's our hairline added in. So if you are drawing a more male character, I would add in a more straight across hairline that connects into a rounded, like a rounded line here. You could also add in more of a pointy hairline. This is for a female or a male character that you can add in. You can add a hairline like that. But for today, we're just gonna stick with a rounded one. And looking at this, my hairline is just a tad bit high, so I'm gonna move it down just a little bit. So when you're drawing hair, you want to separate it into big shapes rather than small shapes. So I'll show you kind of on this one what I mean. So instead of drawing your hair from the top of your head, adding in every single strand, I start by adding in this big shape instead. So you can see where my pencil is, I'm adding in that shape to start with. Yeah, so instead of going with individual hairs, I'm going with the big shape of the hair. And the way I add that in is to always start with a part. So a part line can go in the middle or on the side, like that. Or if you want things like bangs or shorter hair, I would go with a dot, and that's to show like where the hair comes from. So I'll just show you an example of what I mean by a dot. So if you wanted it to be shorter hair, you would start your hair from this section. So if those are like bangs, they all like start at that one spot. This is really bad hair, but yeah, so all of your hair starts from this line that you're adding in now. So if you want it to be a dot, all your hair comes out of that dot, right? So on this one, all of her hair comes out of her part line here. So I'm going to be adding a middle part. And I'm going to be adding in the big shapes that I need. So adding in like parts on the side here, you can see I'm adding in triangles coming from the middle part here, like so. Adding in a triangle on this side as well, keeping them mostly even. And these are like bangs, so you can make them a lot longer. And then from that same line, hair takes up quite a bit of space, so you can see I'm going above the original circle we were using for the head and drawing down from there. So I'm doing a bit of a straighter hair than this one, so it'll look a little bit different than this type of hair. And then after I have these big shapes in place, I go through and I erase everything that would be behind it. So I'm erasing part of the eyebrow, I'm erasing a little bit of the ear here, the chin. I'm also erasing the hairline here. And I will erase the final last bit of that circle that we started with. And to add texture to hair, you want to start at like the origin of your hair. So the origin is our part line here. And you want to bring those lines throughout the whole shape. And the other thing I do with hair is you can see where it goes behind the ear here. I'm going to shade it so it's a little bit darker. I'm going to shade in between like different sections that I have of hair here. Shading behind the ear, shading behind the jaw here by the neck. And that just adds a little bit more of a 3D look to this hair. So this is the end of our lesson here for today. And it is also the end of our pencil unit. So next week is Family Day. So we will be taking Family Day off. And then the week after that, we are starting brush pens. So I will send out a list of pens that I would suggest to get. You only have to get one pen, but I'll send out a couple. I can show you the pens that I will be using for it in just a second here. And we will be drawing with some brush pens, which is exciting. It is one of the mediums that I use the most often. So, yeah. So this is the final sketch for today. And
Thank you.
yeah, thank you guys for coming. This is the brush pen that I'm using for next unit. And I will show you kind of how it draws for a second here. So it's a very like wide tipped pen and it bends when you draw with it. So you can see it looks straight and then it bends with how I use it on the paper, which is really nice because you can get really, really thin lines if you are very light with your pen, and then very thick lines if you're a little bit.
Like marker pen.
Yeah, it's like a marker. Yeah, it's very fun to use.
What's the brand name?
This is a Sakura pen. So, I will send out a list of some pens that I would use. This is the one that I'm using, but you can also get a pen. This isn't a brush pen, but you can get a pen that looks like this in brush form. So this one is a Micron. This is the same brand. They're just a little bit different in terms of like what a pen would look like. This is not something I would recommend to get, but this is a different type of brush pen that I have. And it's like a paintbrush with ink on it.
No.
So it's a little bit different of a pen, but it does kind of the same thing. So
Yeah.
Is there a
yeah.
size for like how fine should it be?
So I have two of these pens. I've got a big brush pen and a medium brush pen. And you can kind of use any size. It just depends on how thick you want your lines to get. So if you were to use a medium brush pen, this is as thick as your lines could get. If you were to use a big brush pen, your lines could be much thicker, right? So the nice thing about brush pens is they all have a pointed tip, which means if you're light enough, you can get as fine as you can get, or as you want. So even this medium one will go about the same thinness as the big one. It's just in terms of how thick of a pen you need.
And what kind of paper would we need? The same that we're
Yeah,
using
so I can show you the paper that I like to use for brush pens, but honestly, any sketchbook you have is fine. So this is a sketchbook, and you can see it doesn't go through the paper all the way. This is a Canson sketchbook. I've also used Canson Mixed Media. But this is the main brand I use for when I'm brush pen inking. So this is Strathmore Bristol. And this is what I use for almost all of my inking. Yeah. So again, I can send out a list of supplies. This was only $14 for 20 sheets, and it is 11 by 14. So I don't think you need anything this big, as this is quite a lot of paper. But this is probably what I would recommend in terms of the best price for the nicest paper. But really any paper works. I use printer paper sometimes as well, so.
And we won't use eraser this time, right?
So we will be going in with pencil. But our pencil will be much easier of pencil.
Yes.
So if I were to draw something, let's see what I have in here. I don't have much in here. So if I were to be drawing a face like this per se, I would just go in with construction lines. So if I were drawing an eye with this type of pen, I would go in with like very basic construction lines like so. And then I would go in with my brush pen. So this is very fast done, but like this is how I would do an eye with a brush pen. You can see I'm just adding in.
We can't erase anything.
Pardon?
We can't erase.
Actually,
Yeah,
you can erase the pencil. You can't erase this marker, which is not great. But I will say that white ink is my best friend.
I know.
Um,
Yeah, I remember this one.
yeah.
It's
So
like ink when you write by ink.
yeah, so this is something that I was inking yesterday, and I used pencil on it first, so you can see a little bit of my gray pencil. So you can erase all of
Beautiful.
that, but you can't erase the ink, unfortunately.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you.